Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's training session, which is all about That's Not My and early years, but also about the focus books for this month. So if you're new, every month we share books around a certain theme, but we also focus on the books that have just come out that are available for you to order that we think you guys will sell really well. So most of them actually this month are quite early years focused, so ties in with the theme, but I'm going to go over the ones that aren't first. So it's kind of like the ones that I think you'll sell really well that are nothing to do with early years, then move on to early years. So yes, welcome everyone, and thank you, Kerry, because I know I regularly pick on you, but you're just an easy target to be my co-host. So I'll share my screen. So firstly, Croxford, I've seen you on this call. You're going to be delighted by this. The first book I want to talk about is this one, which is The Royal Jewel Plot. So this is number 2 in A.M. Howell's Mysteries at Sea series. Number 1 was this one, Peril on the Atlantic. I literally finished this yesterday. I really loved Peril on the Atlantic, but I loved this so much more. So if you're not familiar with A.M. Howell, she writes historical fiction. She's the younger age, I would say, in terms of like comprehension, reading ability of our middle grade fiction. Her books before this were quite female, I think, like female lead characters, all about periods in history. But this new series I love because I think it's really gender neutral to read. You've got a male and female lead character, so you've got a brother-sister combination. The first book, spoiler if you've not read them, they don't know their brother and sister. So the whole premise of the series is there's a girl called Alice and her dad is the captain of a ship. So the first book, she's on the ship with her dad. She makes friends with this boy. Revealed at the end he's actually her brother. There's loads of kind of mystery secrets to unsolve, and there's always a crime that's happened and it's up to the kids to solve it. This one, Alice and Sonny, grandfather was really rich. They've inherited this yacht, and they go on this yacht, and onto the yacht is the King of England. So the King of England in 1936 has a holiday on this yacht, and she's got author's notes at the end which tell you that this was based on the true story of the king being on a yacht on a Mediterranean cruise with Wallis Simpson at the time, and apparently that was the cruise that made his decision to abdicate from the throne so he could marry an American divorcee. There's loads of historical detail interwoven throughout this. So you've got the whole thing about the monarchy, the royal family. There's a moment on the boat when the press are snuck onto the boat and they take pictures. So it's that whole kind of conflict between the royal family and the press and what the press are reporting on. There's a lot to do with like female rights. So one of the characters really wants to be like a ship hand. And her, because she's female, it's assumed that she can't sail a ship, but actually she ends up rescuing Sonny and Alice and shows that girls are just as capable as boys. There's a lot to do with like the sibling relationship because so Sonny is 14 and I want to say Alice is 12, or he's 12, she's 10. Those kind of ages, should know, I've literally just read this. There's a lot about the dynamics because they haven't grown up together. Alice is desperate for Sonny to have an amazing summer because she's desperate for him to be happy, them to stay together, and them to be this happy family on the boat. So you've got that dynamic. You've got the royal family, you've got the history. There's an octopus on it who's guarding an opal. So there's quite a lot of facts about octopuses, which were really quite fascinating, actually. And I can't say as octopuses are my favourite creatures, but I was interested. So there's a lot about them. It's set in the Mediterranean. They go to Dubrovnik, so you've got a lot about that as well. And she's just an amazing, amazing storyteller. And I just think she gets into the action straight away, which I think is so important for kids. Like, she doesn't go on and on about the setting and the details. She's into the action straight away. I have to say, I didn't actually work out who. So basically, they're on a boat, a precious opal gets taken, and it's up to Alice and Sonny to work out who's taking the opal so they can save the boat and save their family's future on this yacht. I didn't work out who'd taken it. And she drops so many clues throughout, and then as you go through, the kids work out the clues and you're working it out with them as a reader. And I think the historical element is great, but I think it's more like the mystery adventure that I think any child would just really enjoy this book. I think parents are happy to buy it because you've got the historical elements. You feel like your child's learning something as well. As a parent, I think you would also enjoy reading this with your child. So another kind of key selling point for you guys, that as a parent, you're going to really enjoy this too. And yes, just cannot rave about this series enough. I think it's great. There's 2 in the series, so it's great for your upselling or your repeat customers. So highly, highly recommend. I don't think you 100% have to have read Peril on the Atlantic to enjoy the Royal Jewel plot, but there are references back to it and the adventures they got up to, which obviously if you hadn't read it, you wouldn't get. But I think it's not essential that you've read this one before you read that one, because she kind of fills you in on like why the characters are where they are as you go through. But yes, Royal Jewel plot, that was a real like word vomit, but it's just so good. I think as well, other books, particularly if you are newer to Usborne, that you might not have necessarily seen before. Oh, to note, so the third one, the Hollywood kidnap case, is coming. And what I love about the Royal Jewel plot is at the end of the book, the kids are like, oh, where are we going to go next? And it sets the scene for the next book, which I love, because then I think you're desperate to read the next book with that one. So that's coming in August, which is great. So not long to wait. Secret of the Treasure Keepers, Mystery of the Night Watchers are 2 of her other books. They do feel very feminine, I think, both in the covers and to read. So just kind of note that then maybe some of your customers might not cross over into her other books, some of them might. Then ones that I think people will like if they like the mysteries at sea, A Place Called Perfect series is relatively, I can't remember when that came out, at least 5 years ago. It's a real like spooky mystery. Again, I would say it's the younger end of our middle grade 9 to 12 fiction. It's quite easy to read. You've got this mysterious world that the kids have to figure out what's going on. And I just think, again, as a parent, I think you would enjoy reading this with your child. So well worth checking out A Place Called Perfect. She's also got another series called The Light Thieves, which I have to admit I haven't read, but I loved A Place Called Perfect. I'm looking forward to my daughter being a little bit older to read it with her. Cogheart is historical adventure fiction, like the Mysteries at Sea books. I would say it's harder to read, and I personally found it a bit harder to get into, but schools absolutely love it. It's available as a class set, and yeah, schools seem to really go into it. I'm not sure kids would necessarily choose this as much as a teacher would want this for their class read. Again, please share in the comments if you agree, disagree, what you found similar to A.M. Howe. So I chose it because it's historical adventure, but I'd say it's a step up in terms of reading. I don't have a copy of Bastion Bon Livre to show you. Again, that's a step up again. So it is that historical action adventure. It's set in Paris. I know some of you absolutely love Bastion Bon Livre. It's quite literary to read, so I'd say for a more able reader, they would love it. A step down, I would say, would be Anisha. So I think the Mysteries at Sea are quite a nice step up. Like if a child has enjoyed Anisha, they love that detective. Obviously, Anisha's not historical, it's very much contemporary, but it is that something's gone wrong and it's up to the kids to follow the clues and unpick it to solve the problem. And you've got that male-female dynamic, the same in Mysteries at Sea. So I'd say if you've got customers that liked Anisha, you could suggest that they might also enjoy Mysteries at Sea. Next is Billy and the Mini Monsters at the Zoo. So I can't remember which number this is in the Billy series, but we're quite far along now with Billy. These are first chapter books, and they are full colour illustrations. So they're a great stepping stone from a traditional picture book to a chapter book. You've got a lot of comic strip illustrations. There's not much text on each page either. I would say my daughter is in reception, but she's not going to be able to read this independently. She's quite a good reader. but it's that kind of age that it's aimed at. But I would say I think you probably need to be a better reader than a child in reception is, unless your child is a supreme genius, to read Billy on your own. But yeah, the font is nice and large. You've got all the speech bubbles throughout. This one is, surprisingly, about the monsters going to the zoo. There's a thread about endangered animals throughout. And I quite like the fact that, so you've got the contents. I always like a contents page of all the chapters. You've got an introduction to Billy and the monsters at the start. And there is a map of the zoo, which I really liked because you basically work your way through. Why is it? I'm now not going to be able to. Oh, yeah, here you go. So you've got a map of the zoo, and I liked this because you basically work your way through the different areas. So it's nice for your child to predict what's coming next. There's loads of things to spot throughout. There's little animal details throughout, like the names of different monkeys. There's lots of different facts about the animals. And it's just the usual like slapdash fun of course it's going to end in disaster, that Billy's taking his monsters to the zoo. Of course, they're not going to sit quietly in his bag. They're going to get out and they're going to cause absolute chaos, get stuck in animal enclosures. He's going to have to try and get them back. There are some elements of fear along the way. So his best friend is really scared of crocodiles and doesn't want to go into the reptile enclosure, but he overcomes his fears to be a good friend to Billy and to help him find the last of his monsters. They're just real, like, easy read, quick to get through, read a chapter a night with your child, lovely colourful illustrations, and just super fun monster characters. And I like the fact in the books you've got the little fact file of the mini monsters with like their scare rating, their likes and dislikes, their special skills. There's just nothing not to like really about Billy and the Mini Monsters. And I know they sell really well for you guys. Just a reminder, there is a special offer on at the moment of this set of 6 Billy and the Mini Monster books, which I think is £19.99. So really, really good value, particularly with books this size that you could easily get through one a week as a parent with your child. So quite a good saving to be able to buy a box set rather than all the individual Billies. So yes, that is Billy and the Mini Monsters. Obviously there's loads in the series, which is great that you can go on. You don't necessarily have to read them in order. I do think it would help to read the first one, but Billy is introduced and his Mini Monsters are in each book, so it wouldn't necessarily matter. Other kind of comparable books, if you've got customers that like Billy, I do think the dinosaur series is a really good one. These are pitched as like young reading books, but again, nice to read as, well, it's not really a chapter book, but nice to read with your child. Again, it's that like bridge between picture books and chapter books. I would say this one, the text is much easier in these. So it might be that your child is able to read more of this if this is something that you want to do. But again, it's the super fun characters, the fun illustrations, the speech throughout. So I do think if you are kind of stuck for what else to recommend, as well as Billy, to a family that likes Billy, I think the dinosaur series is quite a good shout. Other ones, we have had the adventure game books for quite a while. These are much newer. So you've got the Puzzle Adventures that's been out for a little while. So these are just much younger. Well, they're not quite like the adventure game books because you can't pick and choose your own story. You have to follow the story through as it goes along. You've got the comic strip style like you've got in Billy. Again, really fun to do with your child to work out the puzzles as you go along together. Again, a younger child's not going to be able to read this independently, but fun to do together. The puzzles are quite easy to solve together as well. Even more fun, I personally feel, is Super Squirrel, which, again, like really simple puzzles in this one. So again, fun to read with your child. Really fun Super Squirrel character based on the number of superhero parties my daughter's been invited to. It's clearly what all the 4, 5 and 6-year-olds are going for. And yeah, I also think £5.99, same price as Billy, just super, super good value. So I do think, yes, a cross-sell for Billy would be Super Squirrel and the Puzzle Adventures. The final one, I don't know how much it's comparable in terms of if you like Billy, you'll definitely like Izzy. However, it's by the same author, which is why I am sharing it. So this is Izzy the Inventor, which I would say is definitely older than Billy. And these are all centered around a girl called Izzy, who is really into science, doesn't believe in the fairy tale world until she finds herself thrust into one. Each of the books are based on a different fairy tale, and it's kind of like turning that fairy tale on its head, helping girls to be the heroes of their own stories, and Izzy and her crazy unicorn friend saving the day. These have actual science experiments, which I am a terrible parent and personally wouldn't want to do at home with my children, but I know others are better parents than me and would enjoy doing the science experiments. Yeah, definitely a step up from Billy, I would say, but same author. And Zana is just a really, really brilliant author. So might be that if they liked Billy, they might also like Izzy. Just to note, Izzy is black and white illustrations. You do have like the comic strip style in there. You do have the speech bubbles, but it's not full color like Billy is. So moving on to the second to last that I feel is not in the early years category, which is the Think Green activity book. So Usborne loves producing books that are anything to do with the environment. We know kids are really invested in the environment, saving the planet and making positive changes to help our future. This is quite similar to a lot of our activity books. So they have a variety of different things that you can do throughout. So some are like puzzles that you can do within the book itself. Some are things you can do with things you might find around your house. Others are like writing in the book itself, drawing in the book. My daughter really enjoyed the things to make and do for people you love. So there's a lot of like activities to do within the book. Actually, I would say this one is much more focused about activities to do within the book itself. A lot of the other ones are more like things you've got around your house to make and do into things, which this one does do, but not to the same level. There is a lot of write-in activities in this one. And there's just a lot of practical, fun things that you can do to make your difference to the environment. So I just think, yeah, great for kids for school holidays to kind of work their way through. I remember absolutely loving being able to write in an actual book as a child. Hopefully I'm not the only weird person that really enjoyed being able to write actually in the book itself. So yeah, there are activities you can do outside the book, a lot that you can do within it. I would say a lot of our other activity books they're more kind of balanced. So you've got like stuff you can do within the book, like pictures to colour, things to draw, and then you've also got stuff that involves things you might find around your house. And it is better than Blue Peter. You're not going to have to climb like Everest to find a rare bean to use on it. It's just more everyday things. There's loads and loads of activity books. So if you literally just type in activity books in the Usborne website, loads and loads will come up. These are just some to show you of different examples. There are some as well that are a bit of a smaller format, because what I will say is these are quite large to take out and about with you. We do have a lot of activity books that are much smaller and much more bag-sized. But yeah, loads and loads of great activity books. And I think the summer holidays are not actually that far away, and good for parents to start stocking up on those kind of things to keep their kids occupied and happy. Next on my list is something that I'm sure will be popular with loads of your customers, which is a book and jigsaw about telling the time. The thing that is really cool about this, hopefully you're going to be able to see it in here, is it makes an actual, yeah, you can kind of see it. It makes an actual clock with hands that you can turn on this jigsaw, which I think is a really great selling point for you with your customers, that you got that interactive element, that they've built up the jigsaw. You can talk about all the different times of day and what people are doing at different times of day. Your kids can physically move the handles around on the clock. So you can talk about all things time related. And the other thing that is so great about our jigsaws is that they all come with a book. This one is obviously telling the time related. as well. And I think it is one of those skills that, like, some children obviously grasp it straight away, but most of them struggle with the concept of time and telling the time, particularly as we live in such a tech heavy world compared to when we were kids. And you didn't have all the like digital clocks the same. I think it's like even more of a harder skill than it used to be to learn to tell the time. So I think it's a really, really great product. It's £12.99, but you're going to get a lot of use out of it, and it comes with the book. So I do think, I know the jigsaw prices have gone up, but I still think they're good value for what they are. And I think the educational jigsaws, it's something kind of that's fun, but you're learning at the same time. I have heard a lot of feedback as well that schools like jigsaws that are educationally based as well. So it's worth, like, don't rule out jigsaws for school, particularly loads of them have all the wraparound care, the after school clubs. And I know some of you have sold a lot of jigsaws to your schools, so it's worth considering that as well. Particularly if you've got a school that doesn't know what to spend their free books allowance on, definitely suggest that. We have loads and loads of books to do with telling the time. So you've got, I really like this series, the workbook series. I prefer these ones to the white cleans. These are the write-in versions of them. So again, they're just great for parents that want to give their children that extra support at home, or maybe at parents' evening something's come up that you want to give your child that extra support with. They're £3.99, so they're really affordable, loads of different topics for the workbooks. They are quite UK curriculum centric. They're one of our only things that's aged on the front because they are completely tied in with the UK national curriculum. So if you're outside the UK, maybe less helpful to you, but I still think they're really, really good products. Another one of the activity books, telling the time themed, if you really want to go for it on the telling the time. Like, there's a list of flat variety, and these, like, this is just scratching the surface as well. There's more if you look online. And this one I mainly picked because I was at an event with Kerry and the kids absolutely bloody loved it. It's a Poppy and Sam version of telling the time. I think mainly probably because of this is what they all actually wanted, was to play with the clock, which they could happily do with the jigsaw as well. So this is the Poppy and Sam telling the time book, which the kids went mad for. I personally find it slightly strange because I think Poppy and Sam is much more preschool, and telling the time is obviously not a preschool topic. It's more when they're 7, 8 years old. So I personally feel it's a bit of a mismatch, but the children at Kerry's event would have disagreed with me wholeheartedly. They love the Poppy and Sam telling the time book. Other things to note, again, if you just type in jigsaw, the website, you'll get loads of them, but there's loads and loads of different jigsaws. I know the times tables one tends to be quite popular because, again, it's a topic that kids need to know. Like, I know children always talk about, like, how's maths useful outside of school, but we all know times tables, super useful at any point. Periodic tables, quite a fun one as well. 15-year-old me would not have said that, but adult me thinks it's great. So yeah, like, well worth. Look into your educational jigsaws because I think people are happy to invest in them, and it's just a different way of learning, which might appeal to some children that are more practical, and actually by physically doing something, that's how they'll retain that information and be able to learn. So yes, I think it's great that we've got a telling the time jigsaw because, yeah, for some children that will just be a better way for them to learn. For other children, they might prefer the other varieties, and that's why it's so great. There's so many formats. Next one is all about you and your body. So this is from the All About series that's aimed at early years, so nursery and reception. There's ones on like families, feelings, worries and fears, friends, and they're great because they just show, I think, every child's reality is reflected in these books, which is so important. I think a lot of books don't do it as well as these ones do. So this one is focused on all the amazing things that our bodies can do. You've got like how you learn, how you grow, how you change. And I love this one because actually it reminds children that sometimes it does take a while to learn things, and it is hard. Like, you don't remember not being able to talk or not being able to walk or not being able to sit up or feed yourself. But it took a long time for you to be able to do those things. It talks about the senses. I like this one because it touches on what happens if you don't have certain senses, or you're limited in certain senses as well. So again, it's just helping children understand not only their own reality, but the reality of other children that they might be friends with, neighbours with in their class. It talks about all bodies being different, and the importance of that, all the different kind of differences in there, like limb differences, facial differences, so many different things. Talks about how your body needs, what your body needs to be healthy. My daughter's obsessed with that and hasn't stopped her eating chocolate, but she is obsessed with it because they're clearly banging on at school all the time about healthy eating and healthy choices. Looks at your feelings as well, so not just your obvious physical health, your mental health as well. Taking care of your body, clothes and getting dressed, what happens when you're ill, getting better. This one is all about the names of body parts, and it does deal with the correct names for private parts and the importance of using of knowing those correct names for them. So I know a lot of you wanted a book that was younger, that talked about the correct names for private parts, and this book does. Talks about boundaries as well, and your body and your right to your own body, and to make decisions about what happens to your body. And they've got notes on the back for grown-ups as well that are really helpful, a glossary of useful body words. So there's just so much information, so it's great for parents to have those conversations with their children. It's great to help children understand the world around them, and great for children to see all different realities reflected in these books. So highly recommend this series. Great for parents to have at home, to have those conversations and support those conversations with children, but also a real staple that every school and nursery, in my opinion, should have a full set of these books in there. I want to say library, but I've never seen a nursery with a library. But they should have them in their classrooms and access to them for children. I think my daughter's nursery's got them. My son's nursery, my daughter's at school. I don't know whether her school's got them or not, but they should do. So yes, as I said, there's lots of them in the series. On the other end of the spectrum, you do also have a range of books that are aimed at 11 plus children that are secondary school, that again, I think are crucial to have in libraries. Also, I do think, same with the other series, it's as useful for parents to have these for their own reference as it is to have these for children. I have seen quite a lot of children picking up this book at events before, but I think they are as much for the parents, and the parents having the information to have those conversations with their children, having that confidence of having a book with them. There's Usborne Facts of Life Growing Up book coming out as well. So lots of these books that I do think, if you know parents of teens, it's worth you having the conversations about, actually, do the parents want these for their own use, to kind of read and understand about the world that their child is experiencing, which won't be the world that they were experiencing however many years ago. So now on to the books that are new, but in the early years theme. So this one I was very excited about, mainly because my son is obsessed with fire engines, wants to be a firefighter, would happily spend all day pretending to be a fireman. And this is Let's Go on a Fire Engine. So this is the cheaper end of our sound books. So this is $7.99. I know people have commented on the front bits of books before being quite thin. It's not the thickest, I will say, the front cover. But you join a host of fun dogs. I'm also a dog fan. And they are called into action to save the day. And I don't know how well you can hear this, but that was quite long. So you've got the bell, calls them into action. They need to go and save the fire. It's very active, this book, very fun. Thing I like about Usborne sound books is they actually, a lot of them do have a plot. So it's a bit more enjoyable as a parent to read through it with your child with a plot. The sound chips are really easy for children to press themselves. My kids both could do it from quite a young age, actually pressing and engaging and knowing where to look for the sound chip to make the sound. So the brushing up, save the day with the fire. I think it's really, really good value at £7.99. I know it's quite important to the editor of this book to have a cheaper range of sound books so children get that like multi-sensory experience when they're reading. So this is Let's Go on a Fire Engine, which I just think is excellent. I know lots of you do events at fire stations when they have open days. This is another one to add to your repertoire to take along to those. And if you've never done a fire station open day, please comment in the chat if you have, because I know some of you have, how you went about getting in there, because it is like guaranteed sales of anything fire engine themed. And we have a lot of them. So you've got your classic That's Not My Fire Engine. There's a very nice video available on YouTube as well, on Usman's YouTube channel, with firefighters reading this book. This one is one of my son's all-time favourite books. They're Lights and Sounds Emergency Vehicles, which is just amazing. It is £12.99, I would say worth every penny. You've got the slider sounds book. So again, these come in all different formats. So this one, you flick the sound from one side to the other and it makes a different sound. And like super clever technology. You've also got a peep inside for slightly older children that are really engaged in fire engines. My 14-year-old niece, bless her, had to read this 5 times to my son when she last saw us. I don't think it was a highlight of her time with us, but Alfie certainly enjoyed finding out about how a fire engine worked. And this one, I brought home for this presentation. And what I will say as a parent, I've heard this sound way too many times since this has graced its way into my house. But if you're not familiar with the wind-ups, get yourself familiar with them, because people are very happy to spend, this one is £19.99, they slightly vary in price. People are happy to spend it. Anyone please comment in the comments how many wind-ups you've sold in one event. But basically people say no matter how many they take, they'll sell all of them. So you've got a storyline, but you've also got a series of tracks that you can wind your fire engine up and whiz it around the tracks, which Alfie found like the best thing I've ever done for him was winding this fire engine up. I have to say, he loves books. He wasn't particularly interested in the storyline because he just wanted to watch the fire engine go around the track. But like hours of joy from these books. This one makes a noise. They don't all make noise. And again, I know people sell these like mad at the old fire station events. So it is well worth, don't shy away from the really expensive books because people will buy them. But it's great that we've got the full range that you could buy the £7.99 Let's Go sound book all the way up to the £19.99 noisy fire engine. I'm running out of space. Things. Next up is my first Lift the Flap Look and Find on the Farm. So this is the second in this new series. The first one was this one, Look and Find Animals. So you are introduced to a little animal friend and you have to help the little animal find their friend by lifting the flaps as you work your way through the book. They're like relatively stable flaps, I would say, because I know it's always a concern with kids ripping them. My son is quite handsy with a flap. And yeah, he's not wrecked it yet. But yeah, there's loads of little animals that you can meet throughout. So it's nice knowing kind of about where they live on the farm, where you might find them. There's a tractor, which I know is a real crowd pleaser with a lot of children. And there's all the different sounds, and you've got this like active looking for something, which is fun. There's just something about flaps that kids just love looking. You've got all the animals you can name throughout. And I do think farm is just a classic theme that kids just love farm animals, love buying books related to farms. I know, again, some of you do pop-ups at farms. So if you do, please put in the comments how you got into your local farms to do events. And what I love about this book, the other one is the same, is at the end of the book, you've got all the different animals and things you met along the way. So it's really good for building kids' vocabulary. playing look and find throughout, that can they find that in the book under the flaps, can they search for it? I think there's so many things to talk about with your children as you work through this book. It's £9.99. It's quite large in format. I really love this series. My son really likes them, and I just think they're really great books. So yes, as I said, there is animals as well. So the farm just goes through like the different things you might find on the farm. The animals is more based on like different parts of the world that you find different animals. There is other ones that are kind of farm animal related. This one is an old one, but people keep selling it because it's just great. And it was both my kids have had this as a favorite book at one point, the animal hide and seek. The reason I highly recommend this is because it covers everything. So you've got flats to lift, you've got touchy-feely patches, you've got the hide and seek element, you've got the like familiar Farmyard Tales characters, you've got all the kind of sensory elements to it, the questions that kids just love asking. And yeah, both my kids absolutely loved Animal Hide and Seek. Not the cheapest book, it's £10.99, but like your customers will get so much joy out of this Poppy and Sam Animal Hide and Seek. So if you're not familiar with it, I would definitely add this to your list of books. On the hide and seek theme, this one is cheaper. So this series is £7.99. There's quite a few different animals depending on your customers and their children's preferences. And these are really large flaps, so quite good for quite young children. So much larger format, much easier to lift. You're not kind of like trying to pluck it out with your nail on them. And again, it's that really simple question and answer. Who are you looking for? Where could they be? You found us. Let's move on to the next one. So there's one large flap on each page to unravel. So that's good, yeah, for younger children that want that hide and seek format. Peep Inside the Farm, I would say, is slightly older than the animals one, just because the flaps are much smaller and more delicate to lift. And the level of information is greater in there. The level of facts about a farm is greater than it is in that look and find book. And it gives you like basic facts, like cows need milking every morning, every evening. The milk comes out of their udders. So more kind of informative for Peep Inside. So it's definitely a step up from the look and find. But a great series nonetheless. And this one is one of my, I haven't actually got the B one. This is one of my all-time favourite series. They're really affordable, they're £5.99. They're super sturdy, they're really aesthetically pleasing, I think. So they're great for like a baby shower gift or like just a general new baby gift. Both my kids loved this series. You've got high contrast images, you've got lovely finger trails to explore. And this is kind of like the first step, hide and seek. So you're looking for an animal as you work your way through, and you see lots of things that you think might be the animal, but then you turn the page and it's actually something else. There's loads of things for kids to like poke their fingers through as well. And it's quite soothing to read, very repetitive as well, which kids love. And I just cannot rave about these beautiful books enough. So if you've not seen an Are You There Little, then I definitely think you should invest and encourage your customers to buy them, because super affordable and just really lovely experience for really small children to read them with you. Then we have Peep Inside, How a Truck Works. So we've talked about this series quite a lot. So it's aimed at kind of like 3+ year olds. So the top end of your, well, the middle end actually, if you think about early years going up to maybe 5. So there are loads and loads of vehicle themed ones, which is great. As yeah, my son has a strange obsession with vehicles. No one else in our family is interested in them, but he cannot get enough of them. This is how a truck works. And it's that fascination, like he loses his mind when the bin men come every week. Absolutely loves it, highlight of his week. And this gives you that minute information about how a truck actually works. And I will say, as an adult, I'm quite informed about different vehicles and the working parts of them now, thanks to my son. So great for your customers as well, that they might also learn something too. So again, yeah, the flaps are smaller. There's a higher level of information in these than the ones aimed at younger children. but great for kids that really love non-fiction. You feel like you're kind of vaguely following a storyline to this. And there's kind of like a purpose to your reading. It does like follow a plot through. You wouldn't want to necessarily just open a random page and go for it. You probably want to go from start to finish. But yes, the Peep Inside series, loads of different vehicle ones. They also do have lots of different ones that aren't vehicle related. There's quite a lot focusing on like animals and habitats. So yes, highly recommend those. You can see a couple of others like helicopter, crane as well. On the trucks and diggers front, there are loads and loads. Again, if you type trucks and diggers into the search, you would find loads. The 199 Things books, I think, are really great. They're really popular with nurseries. Again, really good for like helping kids' vocabulary. They all follow different topics. Some of them are more obvious, like food. Some of them are much more niche, like big machines. But again, if a child has a real fascination with something, I think it's just great to explore that. And these 199 Things books really kind of do enhance that level of interest. They are £5.99, so very affordable. And there's just, yeah, my son loves it. Just loads and loads of pictures of vehicles that he can learn the names of and enjoy looking at and talking about. So I would recommend the 199 series if you haven't seen it before. Jigsaws. This is a 49-piece jigsaw. So again, you get the jigsaw and books as well. There's a colouring book on trucks and diggers. There's sticker books. There's basically everything at every price point you could possibly want to do with vehicles. You will find it. And I would say just go flick through your catalogue, go to the website and really explore the different things that your customers might like on common themes. And I would say vehicles are a theme that you should have at all your events, because you're always going to find kids that are really into vehicles. Next up is a new series for us as well, which this is the second one in this series. So it's a series of soft flap books. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Nosy Crow books. They're like, my kids had loads of them. They're like, where's Mrs. Giraffe? Where's my son's got a vehicle one, like where's Mr. Fire Engine? Where's Mrs. Police Car? And it's very repetitive like that, and you follow it through, you pick up the flap. But they both love them because from such a young age, the flaps are so easy to lift. These books are far superior, in my opinion, to that series, which I would say is probably the best-selling soft flap series out there. Number one, they're way softer. So lovely to touch. So again, a really nice experience for a small child to engage with that. The felt flaps are really easy for them to lift. They're not going to break them. They're going to struggle to do anything to that. This actually follows a plot. The Nosy Crow one is literally, where's Mr. Giraffe? Here he is. Where's Mrs. Lion? Here she is. And that's how it goes on, which can drive you slightly insane as a parent. This one, you've got more of a plot to it. So these are all baby bear themes. So it's a family. This one, they're doing playtime with Daddy Bear, and you've got to find them under the flaps. You've got to find one bear at a time. Really nice quality book, lovely plot line, that nice hide and seek feel. And then at the end, the dad hides and jumps out at them. Just a really, really fun, feel-good, lovely book for parents to enjoy with really small children. And I cannot recommend the soft flat books enough, because kids, like really, really small babies, will just absolutely love them. These are £7.99, so they're nice and affordable as well. And I just think they're a really good addition to your events. As I said, there are others in the series. So you have got bedtime, you've got bath time coming in August. And if your customers like those, you've got similarities between other series, like the sensory element of the That's Not My, and obviously the very young age range. So they're good to sell as a combination. You have got, where has it gone? This lift the flap one. So there's nothing to feel on this one, but it's aimed at very young children with really high contrast images, simple outlined images. So again, quite nice to play and engage with really small, young babies, children. Then you have got a personal favourite of mine, and I know it is with you guys too, the Don't Tickle series. So these are £12.99. Again, if you're newer, don't be put off by the cost, because people will tell you in the comments they sell these like there is no tomorrow. I think these last children quite a long time. So I'd say both my children grew out of That's Not My relatively early. They've grown out of the soft flat books. My son is 2.5, still likes Don't Tickle. If you are not familiar, allow me to show you. So you tickle the sensory patch, it makes a noise, different noises on the way as you go through. And then at the end, there's a fun musical medley which combines all the sounds. My 5-year-old likes making up dance routines to these, which her brother fails to replicate. They're just so fun, and so many different animals to choose from. So again, anything that a child might be interested in, or let's be honest, that their parent likes, you can find in a Don't Tickle format. So highly recommend you invest in these, because I think they last children such a long time and they enjoy them for such a long time. I think it's a very good investment. And finally, I don't actually have the bee one to show you, but I've got a frog. These ones are really small format as well. They're £5.99, and they've got flaps to lift. Again, they're quite large flaps that would be quite hard to rip off for a child. And again, you've got animals to look at, that question and answer format of where's this, and then you open the flap to try and find them. So what I've basically shown you, so many different versions of books doing the same thing, but find the ones that you like as a seller, and those are the ones that you'll sell best. But loads of different options for that. Look and find that sensory book for very young children. This is an older range of the early years spectrum, which is the very first question and answer series. You've also got the first question and answer, which is the age up from that, and then the age up from that is the question and answer. These ones, they do have loads of different topics. So they've got like, what is snow? I think there's like, what are stars? But the ones that seem to sell better for people are the ones based on thoughts and feelings. I've basically created some kind of like book prison for myself that I'm now trying to like work my way out of to grab books. But yes, so this is one of the feelings-based ones, and these tend to be more popular. I don't know whether it's because parents feel like they want them to help their children navigate their strong feelings, whether it's that nurseries want them. I know it's definitely part of their curriculum, the early years curriculum, for children to talk about their feelings and understand their feelings. I really like the structure of these books. So they're flat books, which is great for engaging children to begin with. And they go through the real elements. Like this one starts with, why should you say sorry? Is it easy to say sorry? No, it's not, because you might be feeling embarrassed, guilty, scared, confused. It talks about like relatable situations, like why should you say sorry to someone if they started it in the first place? Tries to get them to empathize with other people's feelings, different ways that you can say sorry and show that you're sorry. Looking at like, can you stop yourself before things go wrong, before you feel different things? And should everyone say sorry? I particularly enjoy the animal examples of how animals say sorry to each other as well. They're really simple. And the editor of this series always emails round before every book, asking anyone that works for Usborne if they have children that age and what questions their children ask. So they're highly relatable because they're based on actual kids, actual questions, actual thoughts and views. And they're just a really great series. So you've got Why Should I Feel Sorry? There's Why Do I Sometimes Feel Sad? There's one about feeling angry. And I think it's just great to get kids to talk about their feelings and their emotions. And I have noticed like my 5-year-old is very good at expressing exactly how she feels, usually just before bedtime when she's clearly trying to go through her delay tactics, and she'll tell me many thoughts and views she's had throughout the day. But even my son will tell us when he feels sad, because they're obviously really focusing on it at nursery as well. This, like I said, the step up from the very first questions and answers, you've got the first questions and answers, which covers what are feelings. I have to say, I prefer the very first questions and answers, because I think the other ones tend to be a bit more abstract, whereas the very first like really relates it to kids' own experiences that are quite relatable. Again, please do comment in the chat of which series you prefer. You've also got all about feelings, and then a slight curveball I threw in this comparison, which is I'm almost always kind. So this again deals with kids' feelings and emotions. There's quite a few in this series, but this is more like a storytelling format. So again, maybe sometimes it's easier for kids to see themselves in a story, or to kind of not talk about their own feelings, but talk about a character's feelings. So yeah, like beautifully illustrated, these books. You've got the nice little cut out die cut sections throughout. Really lovely moral messages in there. And I think this is, it depends on a parent's preference, how they'd rather tackle certain issues with their children. I find it easier with Poppy to talk about characters in a book because she finds that easier. Other children might be more, would rather just talk fact-based than explore different characters. But yes, I think it's nice to see all the different options that explore the same theme. So next is something I know people have been very excited about, which is That's Not My Farm. So it is the 25th anniversary of That's Not My Books, which is insane, really, how long they have been going for. I worked as a nanny like 15 years ago, and I remember the kids I looked after being absolutely obsessed with That's Not My Books, and it was the first I'd ever heard of them. And then since then, I haven't been able to unsee them. But this is That's Not My Farm. So much larger format than a usual That's Not My comparison. So a usual That's Not My is that size. This is That's Not My Farm, so it's much larger. It's the same size as the Christmas tree one, so it is much larger format. It's also much more expensive. So traditional That's Not My is £6.99. This is £12.99, but it's farm themed, which we all know is a crowd pleaser. So rather than focusing on one animal, it focuses on lots of different ones. So you've got the sheep, the cow, the hen, like literally the classics that you would expect to find, the pig, and then at the end you have got all the sounds of the farm. I think it's interesting to, I'm going to stop that now. Oh, geez. Okay, that was quite long. So I think it's interesting to consider this versus the Don't Tickle. And I know a few of you had a few thoughts that you thought, like, why would people choose to buy this when they could choose a Don't Tickle? I think some people just really love That's Not My, and it's a nice added feature that they have got that sound at the end to enjoy. It's nice that it's that larger format, and it goes through all the farm animals. So I think this will be a really popular one at all your summer events for kids to enjoy. As I said, there are loads and loads of different That's Not My books. So you've got like ones that are related to particular themes, like you've got Christmassy themed ones, you've got Halloween themed ones, you've got ones based on vehicles, you've got ones based on fantasy creatures. You've got the larger format That's Not My Christmas Tree, which lights up. There is basically a That's Not My for any possible animal that someone could be interested in, or vehicle, or unicorn, or narwhal, or fairy, or whatever it might be. There is a That's Not My book for that. And I was thinking about you guys earlier while I was driving, and That's Not My. And because it's so iconic, I think it's crucial to have it at your events, because people know That's Not My. So they've already got that trust that you're selling something they know, they're familiar with. The comparison I had in my head was Beanie Babies. I don't know if anyone else was very into them in the 90s, but I was. And That's Not My. You find all your obvious ones everywhere, but you are the people that can provide them with the rare That's Not My, like the rare Beanie Baby that they're not going to find anywhere else. So I would also challenge you to have a slightly rogue one on your stall that they're not going to see everywhere else, like a more exotic, strange creature that they're not going to find in the local supermarket, that actually they're familiar with the series, they love the series, and you've got that one book that they have never seen anywhere else. And I think that is your value. The most obvious comparison to That's Not My is Don't Tickle. And I personally, controversially, because this is the That's Not My thing, it's the 25th birthday. But those of you who have witnessed my training sessions before know I always share my actual opinions. I think Don't Tickle is so much better. It's way more expensive, but I just think they will last your child so much longer, but it is much more of an investment piece. I think That's Not My is more of an impulse purchase, that the price point means that you can just agree to it. Don't Tickle is that bit more expensive. But I think if people are teetering on the edge, I think these will just last their children so much longer than the That's Not My, and they'll just get so much joy from the sounds. My 70-something-year-old mother-in-law absolutely loves this series, just for her own personal use. I think she just finds it the most hilarious thing ever. So it's good for all ages. So that was all the new focus books, which you're probably slightly overwhelmed by all the different things. So the final thing I'm going to go through, and I would love you to comment along in relation to your own children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, like kids that you've taught, if you're a teacher, and what their personal favourites are. Because the next ones I'm going to show you are basically based on what my children have loved as babies and preschoolers, because I think for you guys, the easiest thing for you to sell is going to be based on personal experiences of what children in your life, in whatever format, have loved. Obviously, I have to go for That's Not My, because it is the theme. And yes, actually, before I get into that, just wanted to show you all the different things that you can find That's Not My related. So on the website, there is an entire section of the website that is related and dedicated to That's Not My. It has a little count up of how many books there are. So currently there are 79, but there's new ones coming out all the time. As you can see, you can browse by different categories, so you can find particular things that your customers are after. There's loads of activity sheets that you can download and print off. I know people like to have activity sheets at their stalls, particularly in the summer when the weather's nicer, to get kids over, engaged, colouring some sheets in, so that they'll therefore want to stay longer and hopefully buy some books for you. So it's a really easy thing for you to have some colouring sheets to get the kids over, get them doing something, and give their parents time to browse all the things you've got on offer. There are blogs based on That's Not My. So you've got the whole story behind it if you wanted to find out more. There's loads of ideas of things that you can do with the books and activities and games. And again, your whole value as booksellers is that personalised touch. It is that going that extra milestone that someone in Waterstones or WH Smith's or Tesco is not going to tell you all the different things you can do with a book to help your child's development. You can, as a partner, take that time to share with people the different ways they can use the book to get the absolute most from them. There's loads of, well, there's not loads of different formats, but there are different formats of That's Not My. So you have got your classic £6.99 That's Not My book. But more recently, obviously, you've just seen That's Not My Farm. There's That's Not My Christmas Trees, the larger format. You've got the gift sets, which I don't actually have one to show you, but they come with a cuddly toy. So again, that great like first baby gift that someone might want to buy. And excitingly, I think people will be very excited by this. There are buggy books coming. I don't have one to show you yet. They're coming in August. They're smaller format, but the books have all the touchy-feely patches. So they're smaller format than this. They've got the string, obviously, to attach to the buggy, but they've got all the touchy-feely patches. This is just like a shrunk down version of the regular book. I can't remember how much they are. It will tell you on the website, but they're less than the price of That's Not My Books. They're really good value. And I've been to quite a few events where people have asked for buggy books. They're still clearly all the thing. Poppy, my daughter, like ate half of a buggy book, and I don't even know how she did it. But these will be more safe. It wasn't an Usborne one. So I'm sure these have been more rigorously safety tested. And also coming soon, you've got That's Not My Shark and That's Not My Pumpkin that is coming. There's always someone that gets really into Halloween, isn't there, and really wants to invest in everything. And that's what you can be selling them. And That's Not My Shark looks very friendly in that book. So moving on to my kids' favourite early years books. So please, please, please comment in the chat. What do your nursery kids love that you sell your books to? What do your own kids love if they are still preschool toddlers? If you've got grandkids, what do they like? Nieces, nephews, godchildren? What do the tiny people in your life love? Because it's going to be super helpful for all of you to know that. So my kids, Poppy was a bit old, to be honest, when Don't Tickle came out, but Alfie was perfect for it. This is coming soon. Alfie absolutely loves Don't Tickle. And one of the things I love the most about this series, I think it's great for siblings. Poppy really enjoys reading the books with Alfie, dancing along to the song at the end, watching his little face as he tickles each of the patches. So I think they're great for siblings to enjoy together. As I said, my mother-in-law thoroughly enjoys them too. They just bring joy to your life, and my son still loves them, to the point that we've had to replace the batteries on some of them because he's played with them so much. They're super easy for kids to interact with on their own. He's got a chair in his room. The amount of times I come into his bedroom and he's just sat with books, which is very cute, reading and enjoying them. They always involve flaps or their Don't Tickle books. And they're just great for kids to enjoy on their own, with you, with siblings, with relatives. And I absolutely love this series. And yeah, if you don't have to sell many of them to soon make some good commission on them. So Don't Tickle the Rhino is coming in July. Don't Tickle the Penguin, very cute, is coming in November. My son is obsessed with penguins. And Don't Tickle the Ghost is coming in September. Again, great for your Halloween market. Try and sell them. That's Not My Pumpkin and Don't Tickle the Ghost in one hit, especially when it's like the first of something, which is why I love baby books, because I think people are always more inclined to invest, particularly if it's their first child, for that first experience with that first child. And they're more likely to invest in books. So I do think it is worth your while really focusing on the baby and toddler market, because those are the people that are maybe most susceptible to buying books for their children. This one I've talked about before, which is the Are You There Little? So beautiful. I have given these books to all my friends who have had babies because they're just so beautiful. And if you know, no offense to them, but any beige mums in your life, the lovers of the beige mums, these are so aesthetically pleasing. They're like your anti-bright, garish, usual Usborne books. And I just absolutely love this series. Both my kids loved it, would buy it for anyone. So sturdy. They're still in a really nice condition, our books, even though they've been through both my children, and my son is not gentle. And I just think they are the best books, and they're £5.99. So yeah, Are You There Little? Cannot recommend these books highly enough. Lights and Sounds. So my niece is absolutely obsessed with unicorns and mermaids, which I do find quite funny, because my sister-in-law was very much like, when she had a girl, she's not going to be into unicorns, she's not going to be into princesses, she's not going to be into mermaids. And lo and behold, these are her two favourite books, which are unicorns and mermaids, because they're just great. So you've got a little storyline to work through. These are the little unicorns. You've got the sound throughout, but every time you press a button, you've got a magical sound and it lights up as well. So you've got that full-on sensory experience. My son is obsessed with the emergency vehicles ones and all those sounds. So yes, absolutely love the Lights and Sounds series. So yeah, you've got unicorns and mermaids, my niece's fave, emergency vehicles, which my son loves. He also is obsessed with this things that go sound books. There's no lights, but loads of sounds to enjoy as well. Poppy, my daughter, really loves jungle sounds. They both love farm sounds. And again, these books just last and last because the sound chips are so easy to use. Kids can just flick through, press the sounds, enjoy them like with you, without you, on their own, sitting down, just enjoying those sound books. Again, we've replaced the sound chip on a Nutcracker one that Poppy had because she loves it so much. So again, I think they just last and last, and they're just great. Soft flaps. These books didn't exist when either of my kids were the perfect age for them. And I'd have loved it if Usborne had done a soft flap book when my children were the age, so I didn't have to keep buying them from another publisher. But yeah, I think never underestimate the power of a soft flap. And please don't quote me on that at any point. But yeah, just like really, really great, lovely series by the amazing Sam Taplin. And I think they're just really good for small children that want that active engagement with their books. And finally, Poppy and Sam. My son still loves Poppy and Sam. My Poppy has now slightly grown out of Poppy and Sam, but I'm finding actually now her reading is getting quite good. She can read some of the Poppy and Sam's to Alfie, which is great because they're so simple to read. So I think that, so this is just the one example I've got. I'm not prepared. My mother has like thumbs up me through my kitchen door to tell me that Alfie is asleep. So I'm not prepared to go into his bedroom and fish out the other book. But they have them in so many formats. So you've got the Rogue Tell in the Time book, you've got the Animal Hide and Seek with the touchy-feely patches, you've got sound books that Poppy and Sam. My son loves the Noisy Tractor one and the Animal Sounds one. He also loves Poppy and Sam's Bedtime. They basically go through the book and they say goodnight to all the animals, and you can stroke the animals goodnight, which is what he likes doing, and saying goodnight to them. And the other ones, which both of them have loved, are the collection of stories. Those ones, the one in the middle, I think is a really nice format to hold as a parent. There's 2 of them that have all 20 stories, or you can buy like one which has all the 20 stories in them. They're really good value for the amount of stories that are in them. They're just lovely, easy, calming stories. And I think the other thing with Poppy and Sam is you've got that nostalgia thing for parents that might remember enjoying Poppy and Sam when they were younger, so they're more inclined to want to buy their child a Poppy and Sam book. And I think they're just very wholesome, Poppy and Sam. And yeah, they're just lovely, lovely books. So that is a very large amount of books, I appreciate. Would love to know in the comments, is there a book that I showed you tonight that you haven't seen before and you think you're definitely going to start selling that book? Is there something you think I've missed that you would really recommend that other people have at their baby and toddler events? Please let me know in the chat. And I can see that you have been busy in the chat. So would love to know which ones you sell lots of. Yeah, there was your bottom. Thanks, Carrie. Forgotten that. Classy number. The Quiet Time, Sleepy Time, Calm and Music, Michelle. The sound books, Emergency Vehicles, The Little Tiger, Don't Tickle. Yeah, the Dance With books. I mean, if you are a newer partner, what you basically can realise from this is we have so many baby and toddler books. And I've noticed if I've been to partner events at market stalls, they sell loads of the baby and toddler books because people are just more inclined to buy them as gifts, as presents for their own babies, because it's that novelty, excitement. So yes, I hope that was a useful session for you all. I'm going to stop recording, stop share, and stop recording.